place to make sure that research is being done ethically. And so their job is to protect patients and clients, even if you as staff are really the ones with the content expertise. Maggie Beiser and I submitted an IRB for an analysis about our hepatitis C patients, specifically around reinfection after treatment. And so everything was retrospective. So we didn't, recruit any participants. We didn't survey anyone. We were just using Epic and Salesforce data, so information that was kind of just already sitting there. But we needed to submit an IRB still because it's still considered human subjects. I think there's a lot of really important work that can be done as a quality improvement project, and still is rigorous in terms of science and still, can make really impactful change. But for this project around Hep C reinfection, we saw that there was not that much literature published out there about Hep C reinfection in homeless experienced patients. And so that was really the goal, is to share our program and the experiences of our patients with as many people interested in this topic as we can. And so once we kind of realized that was our goal, we were like, okay, then that means, yes, this is definitely research, and yes, this definitely will need IRB approval. They wanted specific information about when data was going to be de-identified and under what circumstances it would be shared to other co-investigators. And so, for example, we took data from Epic. So obviously there's names, there's date of birth, there's MRN, there's all this stuff. And they wanted to know that right after data was exported, it would be entirely de-identified. And that includes lab dates, and it includes I think there's 12, don't quote me on that, 12 identifiers. But they wanted to know that at export, this thing would happen. And then if the data set was shared with other co-investigators, that these other things would happen. So data sets would only be shared over secure platforms, not emailed. They would be, all Excel files would be password protected. There's other ways to show that you are really protecting your information. And so they want to see specific things that you will do, and under what circumstances. Their vision of what is ethical actually might be a little bit different than what you want to do, or what you think is appropriate to ask patients or collect about patients. So research teams want to recruit patients for the study. They want to be able to compensate them. And the best way to do that, in my opinion, is compensate people in cash. But the IRB, they don't want research teams to be coercive, and they really try to stay away from cash for their own reasons. And so you as the staff and researcher know that the best thing for your participants is to hand them cash at the beginning or end of the encounter, whichever you decide. But the IRB might push back on that a little bit. And so either knowing kind of what battles to choose, and also knowing kind of how to get around those requirements. And my first kind of piece of advice is that the file and the template is really big and can be pretty daunting. The text, the format of the text isn't the prettiest, and the colors sometimes are weird. And so just before you open it, keep it in mind that this is not a beautiful document. And my biggest suggestion is to read it over once, read over all the questions that you have to answer, because it's a lot and it's a lot of details. But just, read everything over really carefully before you get started. Look over other people's IRB submissions to just see the exact type of language that the IRB is looking for. They have really specific requirements about what they want in terms of saving data, where to save data, when to destroy data, how to collect data, how to de-identify data, like all the stuff. And so if you can take a couple of good examples from other teams, that's, I think, kind of the best way to build your own IRB submission. And so, with that, if you know of a team that has been able to pay participants in cash upfront, like ask those researchers, like, hey, do you mind if I see your IRB submission? Or hey, do you mind if I hop on a Zoom with you? Like, I want to talk this over with you. How did you all frame it? Making use of that expertise, I think is like really helpful. It's an iterative process, so don't be so surprised if they come back to you and they say, hey, we need you to clarify these couple of things and you have to resubmit. Like, that's really normal, so don't be discouraged on that. I think many times I think the IRB is this like scary corporate-y office, but like there are people working there who care about the ethics of research. And so if you can get in contact with someone who is willing to help you, is willing to answer questions, like, I think it's worthwhile to reach out to the office and like actually ask for help if you need it.